Welcome back to our cycling series as we made our way from Paris to Athens in 2018.
Cycling!
By early August, we were well into our journey through Romania and had made it to Transylvania, which is actually a real place and is very, very nice. After crossing the Transfagarasan pass, we were en route to Brasov, where Christian, a cyclist we'd met on the road a few weeks earlier, offered us up a place to stay for a couple of nights. The riding was okay, not really much to say except that I love that both Rasnov and Brasov have their own Hollywood Hills signs. Also, when we got to Rasnov, I noticed tons of people wearing black, dudes with long hair and a lot of lace. I was like, these are my people, what is happening here? Turned out there was a metal festival going on, which is a bit less exciting than if a black metal cult had taken over a city, but still, I knew that these were the good people. Brasov is really nice. Brasov is really nice. Wow, this is a travel show. Wow, so much depth and insight. Wow, Brasov is really nice. I'm a travel journalist. It has a really different vibe to other parts of Romania we've been in. This area has a really complicated history, which I'm definitely not going to get into, but the outcome is that for visitors in the area, there's a lot of great places and nice architecture that's been preserved much better than in other places in Romania.
Hey, we're in Brasov. And it's really nice.
It's an actual city. Lots of coffees.
Brasov also had good beers and coffee, which is probably the most important thing for me. We also managed to pick up SIM cards, which meant that after 2 months without regular internet, we were back onto the World Wide Web. In case anyone's wondering, Google Maps just straight up tracks you with GPS, so that and physical maps was how we'd been navigating without having reliable internet. We had an okay dinner one night, but to be honest, it was sort of like a tourist trap traditional place, which was good to satisfy Liliana's need for chorba, basically soup, but this one's in a big old loaf of bread, which makes me wonder a lot about what they actually do with the middle part of it. But anyway, these places are usually just overpriced and not really my scene. I mean, I ordered fajitas here for some reason. Yes, Romanian Mexican food, a long culinary history.
Oh, hey, it's me, a vlogger.
Stop it.
Hey, look. So we just spent 2 nights in this wonderful apartment given to us for free by a cyclist that we met on the road. And we're in Brasov. And now we're gonna head north, east, and then climb over the Carpathians again, and then go down to the sea. And that's our rough plan over the next 5 to 6 days. And that's all I have to say about that, because of the sink sun.
It really was honestly so nice of Christian to let us stay there. Over the next day or so, we made our way to the eastern part of the Carpathian mountains.
Wow, what you gonna see? Hello.
I was expecting it to be super busy and also really tough riding as we climbed into the mountains again, but it turned out to be pretty easy going and actually completely dead as well. Massive brand new roads have been built with tons and tons of rooms that help you avoid bad drivers. My only real complaint was that in this part of Romania it was super common for there to be endless rubbish, like everywhere. I'm told it's just part of the culture of not really giving a fuck and throwing rubbish out your cars, throwing it into rivers. We saw all of that, mixed with councils just not collecting it and issues around people just not having a choice but to drive their rubbish and dump it in other areas. Whatever the reason, it's just really sad to see such a beautiful country being treated like a bin by its own people. When we reached roughly the top, it plateaued into a really nice area where we had some excellent sandwiches and tried to befriend this dog. Apparently the stick around his neck is to protect him from other dogs biting his throat, but if anyone knows if there's a different reason for this, please comment below. It was very confusing and we talked about it a lot. Overall though, this was definitely in our top 10 of most excellent lunch spots.
Blah, 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 blah.
We're cycling over to Boshkani today in Romania. We're passing over the eastern Carpathians and there's this amazing big road and it's like, it feels brand new, it's so smooth, it's massive and there's like no traffic. I know a car just went by, but there's been like hardly any traffic. And because the roads are so massive, it's just amazing to cycle down. I'm waiting for Liliana to come down because I tend to go a lot faster. And I don't know where she is. She'll come soon. So much space. So much space. It's like riding on a motorway. But not. We stopped at this campsite which was right next to an extremely loud river, but it was super chill. We cooked, had some beers and chatted to some other people there. A nice old couple brought us some peaches and the woman kept grabbing Liliana and pinching her cheek like a pure grandma, and also just like grabbing her like waist and sort of shaking her about. It was a bit much, to be honest. There was also a bit of a weird toilet class divide there too, between us happy campers and those evil people staying in the rooms. Our toilet was a big hole in the ground and completely awful, obviously, and theirs was a civilized toilet with a seat and things like running water. Luckily though, we managed to do some sneaking around to reach the porcelain kingdom and break down the barriers that divided the campsite. We left in the morning and set out to Boshkani. Boshkani? Not before visiting the river. It's really nice. It's really nice. Wow, it's really nice. So much information about the river. Wow, is this a travel show? It's a really nice river. There was also this sign there that said if you stand next to the river for 15 minutes, you'll get its magical ionizing properties. Romanians pure love magic water, and honestly, who the bloody hell can blame them? Shame about all the rubbish in the river though. I'm not sure if that is also part of the magic. The road to Boshkani was great. Honestly, that section of Romania was some of the best bike touring we did. En route, we got some supplies from this nice chap and met yet more dogs. The city was much bigger than I thought it would be, but it definitely felt more like places we visited in Romania rather than the more picturesque parts of Transylvania. I did notice everywhere was playing the best of Tina Turner, which I was 100% up for though. And no, I'm not a Rangers fan, Simply the Best is just a fucking great song. I don't give a shit about football. We'd started a warm cyclist day with this guy called Didi in Braila, so we made our way towards the city, which sits on the Danube River. Braila was a great surprise hit for good times. Our host Didi was definitely one of the best hosts we had. Firstly, he gave us loads of space to just get our shit together and it didn't feel awkward, which it often can in these sort of situations. Then he was like, let's go to see this mad salt lake that everyone goes to. We drove and we spent literally like 5 minutes there, and then he's like, there it is, right, let's just go get pizza. Now, I know this sounds weird because most people would want to actually go and visit the lake and all that sort of stuff, but I honestly didn't really care that much. I was just on board. I was actually happy to just go and see it from the car. I'm not a fan of pure dilly-dallying about, look, there's the lake. Excellent, it's got pure tons of salt in it. Pretty weird. I didn't even take any photos of it. We didn't even get out of the car. Sometimes that's just the way I like to visit things, and I was really happy that Didi took that approach for some reason. At dinner, we talked for ages about our trip and also like deep conversations about where home is and what that means. It's something I think about a lot and it's a really interesting talking point for me. Didi was then like, I've got this proposition for you. I think you two should stay here for maybe like 6 weeks. Definitely longer, and you should learn to live like real Romanians. I was not expecting this since we'd only requested to stay for 1 night, and I know it sounds daft, but he was actually seriously offering for us to live with him. Now, again, this probably sounds a bit mental, but his heart was in the right place. Liliana is basically Romanian diaspora. Lily is basically Romanian diaspora, and he's trying to get people to stop emigrating from Romania and for people to come back and start businesses and regenerate parts of the economy. For a minute, I was thinking maybe we should learn to live like real Romanians, but then I remembered that I had to go back to work in October, and so we'd better keep on riding. We graciously declined and we went out walking and enjoying the markets and a sort of mini dance festival going on. In the morning, he took us around the city and then saw us off as we crossed the Danube for the final time. It really felt like a bit of an achievement getting to the Danube River again. We had joined it in Croatia, followed it right through Serbia and then into Romania. at the western part of the country. Now, here we were almost at the delta of the river, at roughly the most eastern point that we'd reach on the trip before we'd start heading south towards Bulgaria. The crossing was somewhat marred by this arsehole who threw his coffee cup straight into the river though. On the other side, I was in a terrible mood. For no real reason, maybe seeing that guy do that, I don't know what it was. Just some days on the road you can get into a pure moody mood and almost angry. It's hard to explain why this happens or what triggers it, but I was really struggling to shake it. Luckily, the feeling never really lasts, and the only thing you can do is just keep pushing on. If you get any of these sort of weird feelings, know that you're not alone, and it's just a part of traveling, I think anyway. We were looking for a spot to camp, and I saw that there were these Roman ruins near Slava Rusa on Google Maps. The reviews were saying that there was no signs or information about it, and I was like, I bet either there's good flat ground there, and since people are complaining about the lack of facilities, we'll be able to wild camp there because it sounds like it's not really a proper tourist site. We got near the town and then turned to this wee dirt road, and lo and behold, I was absolutely bang on. Not only was it a great spot for camping, but we had these lovely ruins to chill and eat our dinner in. We set up camp, started making food, and I was pretty pleased with myself about this whole situation when all of a sudden these two snitches, the sociologists from Bucharest were like, oh, what are you guys doing here? And did you talk to the archaeology group that studies this area about camping here? And we were like, excuse me? Anyway, they buggered off, and like 10 minutes later, this pure out of breath woman starts screaming in French that was like, "Yous can't camp here! Get the fuck out!" So she didn't obviously swear or talk anything like that, but she was speaking in French, and she followed this all up by saying that we can camp in front of the house, but we have to get out of there right now. It was a small relief, but I was still totally gutted, because when you're all ready and set up for bed, and you've just eaten, and you've put up your tent, and everything's all good to go, the idea of packing up again is pretty brutal. And I was also raging because since she spoke French, I knew that those sociologists were total grassies. We packed up very sadly, and a younger guy, I think her son, came and was like, oh, I'll show you to the house. And he was also like, I think it would have been fine for you to stay here. I will tell that to your mother. Tell that to your mother that we can stay here. If these walls haven't fallen down in thousands of years, they'll be fine. They're not going to crush us. Anyway, we got to the house and we're like, yeah, this will be fine. But this big dude came out and was like, I think it will be best if you stay in the student accommodation. Which was class actually, because it meant that we wouldn't need to redo our tent, etc. He led us to the house and it was pretty basic and bunk beds and all that, but it was fine. And he's like, here's the showers, wash, then come for a beer. Instantly I was like, this guy's fucking class, man. We got settled and I got to use one of the worst and best toilets. It's a precariously small hole in some wooden boards above a giant Roman well or a shaft or something. So like things are dropping a long way, which is both awkward and kind of cool. I don't know. It was an experience. We went to the main house and spent the evening with them. They spoke French, so they talked mainly with Ileana. They explained a bit more about the issues with the mayor who wanted to construct and expand the town, but the whole area has the ruins of a major Roman citadel that has been largely unexplored. The archaeology group were there trying to protect it and get funding for research, hence why they weren't exactly pleased with us camping in the middle of their dig site. In the morning they invited us for a big old breakfast and some great coffee, then took us for a hike to see the views of the area and some more parts where they'd unearthed ruins. They also showed us places where people had stolen lots of the bricks and used them to build their own walls. They also talked about how it would become common for people to take their rubbish and just dump it around the place because of clashes with the government, which partially explained why there was so much rubbish everywhere we went. It's a sad state of affairs. Clearly there's a pretty significant historical find here, but it's not being treated with much respect. And looking at recent Google reviews, it seems like not much has really changed since we were there. What started out as a pretty annoying and somewhat stressful situation really turned around into one of the funnest and most memorable tales from the trip. So, the moral of the story is, well, you shouldn't pitch a tent in Roman ruins. Even if it seems like a good idea, you shouldn't do it, but also, you should always be on the lookout for nice archaeologists who might invite you over for beers. Thank you so much for watching this latest episode of our cycling trip. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a comment below. It really helps, and a like, and if you haven't subscribed, then please do, because, that would be great.